Okay. Well, I guess they have their trade-offs, their pros and cons to both of those.
Yeah, they do, man. I if it I had some real eye-opening pricing bam bam and I had about 5 prospects for the Pixel and was doing a $750 install, $1,000 a month, and man, I just couldn't get anybody to move. Crazy.
Really.
So yeah, I don't really know why, man.
I remember last time you and I spoke, you had a few things coming down the pike and you were just looking at going back to market with the offer and stuff like that. So at that point, it seemed like you had some momentum rolling between your conversations, what we had just laid out. So I was expecting next time we talk, you said, man, I closed 5 clients and I've been so busy fulfilling. That's what I was hoping you were about to say.
Yeah, me too, man. It's obviously not the Pixel or that, but it's just my approach, I guess, because I've had 5 really good clients. I shouldn't say really good clients. I had 5 really good prospects who loved what they said. All they had to say after the end of our appointment was, "Hey, man, we're just want to know the pricing." And once I send over pricing, they're just like ghost. And that's weird.
Speaking of that, that might actually kind of play into what I'm going to cover as you were kind of talking about, like, this approach, or we can put all kinds of different words there, but what you're doing right now doesn't seem to be working, right? You can call it the approach, the pitch. I mean, we can go 9 different ways with it, but there's something I want to kind of reiterate that I put together for today's lesson that I think kind of plays right into that. Something I
Okay.
wanted to share with you guys that I've done very well in the past and I'm going back to market with. And the reason I want to share with you more importantly, and the reason I haven't had quite time to do this myself, is just I'm meeting with a couple of colleagues that operate at my level or higher in terms of revenue, annual sales, ad spend, all that stuff. And I got a couple of them really crushing in this department where we were just on a mastermind call with, I mean, one of the guys there did 40 million in sales and he's using this strategy right now. So with some of the stuff I picked up and some success I've had with this in the past, I wanted to bring this approach to you guys. And I know I only have a couple of people on right now, which is great. I mean, it's just Matt and Georgetta. I'm sure some of y'all will watch the recording later. I'm also aware that we had a huge workshop scheduled today. So we had a 1 p.m. Eastern, a 2 p.m. Eastern, a 3 p.m. Eastern. So there's either some burnout or spillover from previous workshops as well, which may hamper how many people are joining mine today. Um, Being that it's only Matt and Georgetta right now, I'm actually just going to dive right into the lesson rather than give away the document that I usually do. You guys already have my resellers doc with all those resources. I've sent those to you both repeatedly, and you guys are on my workshops kind of regularly. But what I wanted to talk about today, and this is something I did a lesson on in November of 24. So I haven't done a full lesson on this in going back, heck, about, a year and a half we're getting close to now, right? About a year and a half. Yeah, we're in May of 26. So that's exactly 18 months. And that was the last time that I ran one of these and filled up a room and got paid to do it. And again, just hasn't been on the radar. And part of the reason for me, honestly, is we have 6 different acquisition channels bringing in revenue. I don't really have to focus on some of these side ones. But this is one, to be very transparent with you guys on the call live and as well as anybody watching on the replay. I probably should have kept more of a focus or a department just focusing on these because, yes, I just said we have, 6 different acquisition channels that are currently bringing in revenue. Having a seventh wouldn't be a bad thing. It's just you get to a bandwidth point where you can only manage so many acquisition channels. And I guess that's what I didn't account for here more than anything. But paid presentations that you get paid for upfront to solve a problem, and then we get them into our premium services is kind of what I'm talking about here. So very simply, I put together a document that I want to go over, and that's going to be the basis for today's lesson. And it's kind of going to play into my lesson from 18 months ago, which I doubt either of you on this call or most of you guys, watching on the recording have seen. So I'm going to dive into that a little more and make sure you guys have all those resources. But again, this was the initial doc that I normally cover. For anybody watching the replay that wants my seller resources for closing data deals, just look down in the link in the description below. If you're watching this replay, it'll be there, but I'm not going to go over this because it's very redundant. I cover it on every single workshop that I do. I see 2 other people just coming in. Great. There's a couple more, but what I want to cover is into today's lesson. So as I was talking about how to create a great paid SaaS or sales presentation, I only really put the SaaS side in because a lot of us have the ability, hell, if you're on this call, you should have access to AudienceLab and be able to resell it. So that's kind of why I put in SaaS. To be honest, how I got started and really what I've done most of these with. Now, not to say I haven't done them with AudienceLab and SaaS, but mine were even before I was offering SaaS. It was just paid presentations. So the SaaS is kind of irrelevant. I just put it in here because AudienceLab is a software-based product, right? But it's more about creating presentations that you can get paid for. And the big hangup that I've had in the past with clients on this is, hey, I don't have an audience yet, or I'm always told I need to go identify an audience before I can do this. Well, number one, if you're on this call again, you have access to AudienceLab, so you can go find an audience even if you need to create it yourself. You just need to pick a demographic and hone in on who your ideal buyer is. That shouldn't be difficult. And I go through all kinds of different trainings on that. Now, a couple of you guys hopped in late, and one or two of you that just hopped on, this may be your first DaaS sales workshop, the one that I host every other week. So just really quickly, my objective when I run these workshops is to come with resources, high-level sales trainings, or lessons you can implement into the process to make more revenue, more sales, whether that be, there's all kinds of ways we could go about that. Today, what I really want to cover, and something I've had success with in the past, and as I led this call, some of my colleagues that are, again, operating at a bit higher level than me, some of the rooms I'm in, there's people doing more in sales that are spending more on ads, right? I'm not the top of the chain by any way, shape, or form. And these people are crushing it with this right now, doing this live. I saw some of their numbers and their ROIs, and they're just sick. So I was like, there's no reason I shouldn't bring this up to my clients again as a way to bring in revenue, especially if you're struggling or, Ray, I don't have an existing audience. I don't have an existing following. This is what I would do if I were you, to be quite honest. Again, that's some of the differences. I do have an audience. I do have a big budget, right? I have a lot of those things where I'm not at, where this is my primary focus, but it is something you guys are going to see us running some more very soon. But the basic 3-step process, if you just see the 3 things in bold, and then we'll dive into each: free content, a paid presentation, and a premium offer. Those are the 3 foundations that make this whole thing work. And anybody that wants to follow along really quick, let me just grab this doc and go throw it in the chat for all you guys, so you guys can all follow along with this. So give me 1 second. This document that I'm going to be covering, and that's going to have some resources here, I am dropping in the chat for everybody right now if you want to follow along. Perfect. Okay, that's there in the chat, and that's what that document is. So let's start with the free content, just some quick examples of that. Current creative that you've already created, that you've used, that you've run, paid ads that you've hit with, and I put in some examples of our creative campaigns. So when you guys click on that document that's in the middle of number 1 there, it should take you to this. Some examples of emails, ads, creative copy, samples that we've had success with. I'm not saying you need to model or mimic these, but it's going to give you the framework for what's working, right? Some of the big differences between you guys and me in the way I write copy or advertising or the person I'm going after even. A lot of times I'm going after agencies looking to resell this to your clients when you guys are going after the end user. So that's one difference in the way I'm going to word or frame some of this. So not all of this will be 100% copy and paste what I'm doing, but the framework doesn't change. I'm identifying a problem. I'm pointing out a solution, and then I'm putting a solid call to action. That doesn't change. That's rinse and repeat no matter what I'm doing, right? So I put at least 15. Yep, I stopped at 15. 15 examples of paid ad campaigns, and some I literally just updated this month. So yeah, there's like 4 new ones in there from May of this month, just so you guys can see some of the creative and the stuff that we run. I would use very similar or the same stuff, to get people interested in my paid presentations. So again, as you go down below, there's some, examples that I've had in here I've had in here for a while. Some of you guys might not have seen this, but our email stuff, none of this is new. This is just stuff that performed very well. The only thing I've really been updating is the ad campaigns. The email copy and stuff is not the department I work in, so I haven't really updated those resources. But yeah, so free content, again, it could be organic content that's performed well. Maybe you've had some YouTube shorts or YouTube videos that have performed well. Clip those out. IG videos, TikTok, etc. We don't need to overthink this, but very quickly, the way I always structure this, and I look at this if I'm creating this from scratch, my free content needs to create some intrigue, curiosity, and then lead them into kind of the problem I'm solving or the main challenge or hurdle we're going to be overcoming throughout the paid presentation, right? So the lead can be really anything. My initial free content could be about all these things, and these are all going to be individual. Rising cost per acquisition could be about how often I flip creative as opposed to my dialed in targeted audiences. Could be about intent data versus in-market data. Could be about historical accuracy, and match rates as opposed to some of the competitors. Right? I could pick all these different angles, and that was just right off the top of my head, 5 pieces of free content that I could just create and put out in the market that at least creates some intrigue into my second and third part of this, my paid presentation, and ultimately my premium offer. So again, we'll recap, but that should all make sense pretty well. Then I want to get put together a paid presentation. What I mean by paid is I don't give this away for free. This isn't, hey, go check out my VSL or my webinar that's on evergreen rinse and repeat that you can sign up to for free. This is a paid presentation that I recommend you run live at least the first couple times. You can certainly automate it and make it evergreen, but running it live has a lot of value. Number one, to make sure that you're getting your presentation done well, you want to do it live. And number two, the feedback you get live from your audience is invaluable with the first couple workshops you run. It really helps you dial in the next one to the point where you can make it evergreen because you already know all the problems or questions you're going to be hearing. You really don't know the first time you run one on anything. So as I go on to say, this is kind of the heartbeat of the process. And as blood does through the heart, you can keep cycling through these, right? You don't have to just say, my paid presentation is just about messaging, right? These are the ones that I've run and people have paid me to attend before I brought them into step 3 in the past. I've done a messaging mastery that was 97 and the upsell was 147 for VIP access. I've done a sales mastery that was a 3-day workshop. And then these lead into back end high ticket offers in the end. But again, I could pick one about anything. I could do one about offer creation. I could do one about targeting. I could do one about budgeting versus creative. I could do one about what budget should you have for paid advertising before you start investing into good intent first party data. What I always tell business owners, and as you guys have seen from when I go direct to market, I'm looking for brands or advertising spending 5K or more on ad spend. I don't think there's a ton of value in buying data from me if they're not at least at that threshold. And I explain to them why. And then I explain what percentage of their budget I would recommend using once you get above 5K in ad spend. What percentage of that ad budget should I use on my data alone? And break that down. That could be a workshop, right? I could pick a million things. These aren't overcomplicated. But what I say really quickly down here in A and B, and then going into 1, 2, and 3 under B. Number one, think about implementation over information. That's what people are paying for. So if you can give them one thing in this workshop, whether it's a 1-day workshop, 3-day workshop, I don't care. By the end, one thing they can implement that can go make a difference in their business, in their problem, in their process, in overcoming this problem. And then I know I just gave a lot of examples and I've been talking pretty quick, but a lot of people will ask me when I do this and when I run them through, they'll always get stuck. And even if I explain it and give them 30 different ideas, Ray, what should I create this about? Well, very easy. We can just take this back to each individual. What is the main thing you're offering in the end of the rainbow? For a lot of you guys, it's a data agency, right? But a lot of you guys are also a data agency that has bolted that onto your existing expertise. Most of you guys that came into this program are working with AudienceLab. In the past, you already had an existing skill set, expertise, services you provided, etc. So this could be very different. But what is the main thing you provide in the end? Just think of that, and let's just put that at the top of the pyramid. That's the macro. Let's think that's the ingredient bowl that we're going to go make brownies with. Then what are the micros, or what are the ingredients that make that up? Those are the little things that I talk about and I mix into my free content. And then the macro is probably what becomes my paid presentation in this case, right? And the macro will almost always, if it's on the top of my board and what I specialize in, should directly lead into number 3 when we get to the premium offer. Now, if my workshop is about something totally different, doesn't transition into my premium offer, that's going to be a tough transition and upsell when we get to that point of the process. But if everything's always revolving around, you just put together a board with a pyramid. Hey, this is problem number 1 I solve, and I'm great at it. This is 2 and 3, 4 and 5. And each time we come down, we get a little wider and a little more broad. Well, those become the micros and the macros at the top of the chart, right? So again, that's a very easy way. Now, what is the preventative in your clients? What is the blocker? What is the hurdle that they're having problems overcoming? That's another great individual thing that I could go make my $27 to $97 paid workshop about all day long. I know the longer I work with clients in any offer, when I was just a business coach, when I was an offer creation expert, when I, helped run AudienceLab on the data side of things, I know the challenges people come across. The more and more clients I work with, the more people I enroll. Hell, I probably know better than they do. They think they know the challenges, and they start working with us in whatever capacity that may be. And there's a different set of challenges than they may have thought. So You should know what are the number one blockers or hurdles or preventative from stopping your client from getting a result. Let's create a freaking workshop about that. That's a great thing that people would pay $27 to $97 to figure out how to overcome. And then solutions again that lead into the premium offers. So kind of again back into that macro micro, but this is where I mean everybody should take their own individual expertise. Did you come into our ecosystem and starting to work with AudienceLab? Were you an email marketing expert? Were you a copywriting expert? Were you an ad expert? Were you a media buyer? What is that, right? Because we're all going to be a little different there, I would imagine. That should kind of tie into your premium offer and what you do on the back end, whatever your existing expertise was, whatever helps you stand out from myself and the other AudienceLab members that are reselling data. A lot of you guys have totally different offers because that back end or that origin skills that I should say that brought you into our ecosystem, you guys are different from one another, which is great. I know some of you guys, some on the call specifically, some probably watching on the replay later. Some of you guys have more full stack marketing agencies where just kind of mixing in this data solution was a little bit of the missing link. Or some of you guys were just running kind of your boutique expert agency. Hey, I just run a GHL agency. I just run a Facebook ad agency. And you're able to bolt this on and stand out. So what are those things that you offer and the problems that you're seeing and the solutions that tie into your expertise? That's all you need to know. And you guys, that's why I said, this is, repetitive and you can keep cycling these. You don't have to stick with one. As I said, I've got paid to do this on messaging, on sales, on offer creation, and I teach a workshop. And then what do I do on the back end? I make a premium offer. So before we get into number 3, let's think about what's happening in number 1 and 2. And let's say for the paid presentation, especially for the people watching that are like, Ray, you said this works without an audience. Well, yes, number 1, your free content has to hit and get some organic traction. I'm not saying go viral, like blow up like those crazy ones that we all see, right? But at least some attention, or I need to have a little money in ad spend. And to be honest, I think anybody that's doing ad spend as an AudienceLab reseller is likely going to have more luck if they ran ad spend to a low ticket funnel where this is kind of, I look at this as almost a break even funnel. If I can break even on my ad spend and just break even on my workshop, everybody I upsell into my premium offer, that acquisition cost basically gets scrapped and I'm all profit on the back end, right? There's sometimes, let's say I run $1,000 in paid traffic and I sell enough tickets to get $500. Let's say I'm charging $97. Worst case scenario, that would never happen if I did this, but let's say I only get 5 people, whatever. I get $500. Well, now my acquisition cost went from $10 per person to $5 per person, right? Because instead of, again, $1,000, once I collect 500, that cuts my advertising cost in half or my acquisition cost. And I know the people that come to my paid workshop are buyers and they're going to be higher quality and more pre-qualified for my back end offer than just the next random guy that hits my high ticket front end funnel. If I'm just going, funnel to back end buy my $1,000 package, there's going to be a lot of tire kickers, a lot of disconnect, a lot of low quality. The people that buy your low ticket stuff, I guarantee you are more likely to buy your back end high ticket stuff than some random in your next high ticket funnel. You know what I mean? So all that stuff happening, you can offset and lower cost. You can totally break even on the front end, and then it doesn't become long before you can become profitable on this. As a matter of fact, the guy I was talking with the other day that was telling me the last one of these he ran, he made 30K on his front end on his upfront thing. He spent 20K in spend. So he was 10K in profit just through his paid thing. He ended up doing 130K in back end sales by the time we spoke. And that was only 4 days after the event. I imagine that number's gone up more since then. So he made 10K on the front end. And then what I say, 130, I think was his back end sales. So that's 140 in profit off of 20K ad spend because he drove them to this mid event, delivered value, collected a little upfront, broke even or made a little profit, and then a lot of people were willing to go into the back end. And this is where I think you guys have a big difference over anybody I've taught this to in the past or the way I've done this. You kind of have AudienceLab to supercharge it. What I mean is throughout any of these paid presentations, you can always kind of dangle and lure AudienceLab as the missing link. Hey, the big problem I solve is rising cost per lead and acquisition. I can get that to drop so their profitability goes back up. You run a workshop all about that, how you do advanced targeting. And then each time you're alluding to this software that plugs you into this super graph where you can target this audience. Or, hey, man, I help people offset their wasted ad spend by resolving the identity of bounce visitors and retarget them to drive in some revenue. I could teach a workshop showing how I do that, but AudienceLab is still the tease and the secret sauce behind the scenes. So you can really quickly say, hey guys, if you want to have access to this software, this data, and what really fuels this engine for me that I just taught in this workshop, I have a premium offer where I give you 5 super pixels or 5, whatever it is, right? And then we put together our offer based off of that. So there's all kinds of ways we can do this. And I'm going to go through again, as I say here, this will obviously be different for all of you depending on skill set, what you put in your premium offer. But here's some basic example on how I did this initially. I did my initial workshop to a one-on-one coaching. And again, this is when I first got started, my first paid presentation ever. So I'm saying this as if some of you watching have never created revenue or generated revenue specifically through a paid presentation. I'm not saying you haven't done it in any capacity, but if it's my first one ever, and again, you have a lot better chance to have something better to offer than this. But I went to one-on-one coaching. So I solved a problem about how I can solve their messaging within a 5-day challenge. They dialed that in, but then they wanted existing coaching. They wanted ongoing accountability. They wanted people to help with implementation, which is where the one-on-one coaching came. And I got to say, if I didn't start with that, I would have never built out everything it led to. Because again, I say my example in my first premium offer that I went to was one-on-one coaching, which led to great feedback. Every client I worked with, they started to tell me, hey, Ray, if you had this, I think it would be a better experience. Or if you had this, it would make things easy, which led me to creating more resources and SOPs, right? I then created those. And then that led to a more sustainable and systemized fulfillment process, which then led me into being able to teach group coaching programs because I didn't have to do it one-on-one. I now knew what they needed. I now knew through all the feedback what I needed to create. I now had their checklists, their PDFs, their spreadsheets, everything they needed where I could group and systemize this, right? So that was just my process and how I built that and how one led into the next. So it let me scale up each time because I'll be very honest, if I just stayed in that one-on-one coaching model, I'd be burnt out or I would have gone broke at some point because there's a certain sustainability and bandwidth with one-on-one coaching. But again, all that feedback and resources I created said, hey man, I could take on 20 people and just meet with them a couple times a week in a group now that I have all these things built out, right? And boom. So that led to that. But again, you guys should be looking at and can look at this in a different way. Data or DaaS can just be the secret sauce behind your premium offer. You don't necessarily need to start at that one-on-one level. You can start right with a premium, offer, whether again, identity resolution, lowering cost per lead, better enhanced targeting, rising ad costs, solving that problem, all that stuff. So again, as I go on to say, and I did, right, I mentioned throughout the process, and I just wanted to re-emphasize for anybody that's, that sees this document that didn't see me speak, but as I did mention, your own skill set and expertise certainly play a factor when you cover in all 3 of these steps. And that's what I mean, right? Your free content, that might come back to your email marketing mind, your copywriting brain, whatever you've done in the past, or it could have something to do with data. There's so many things, and the free content, there's just like sprinkles on an ice cream. How many can you count? I don't know, but there's a lot in there. You can't really run out of these free content ideas. I get new ones every damn day, whether I'm even trying or not, just through a question I got, a troubleshooting. Somebody else did this, and I'm like, oh, shoot, that applies to what I do too. Let me go put that in my own perspective or through my software and my tool. And it differs, right? And then I give you umpteen, 15 plus, ad creatives that we run to just break down our formula, our styles. Some might be similar to what you guys would be offering. Some might be totally different, but these all worked, all got a positive ROI. And those are the only ones I'm sharing with you. Any of our 8 campaigns that, didn't hit, didn't get engagement, more importantly, didn't get an ROI, they don't get shown to you guys. They get scrapped. And those are the ones we revamp, we analyze and figure out what went wrong. And then we relaunch them with a new angle, new hook, new call to action, whatever we assessed was the issue blocking it. And then when we get into our paid presentation, again, what about, think about the main thing you do and all the little things that make that, right? When I'm baking brownies, I need flour, sugar, chocolate chips, yada, yada, yada. I need all that stuff. So I can do one thing just about the chocolate chips and what makes those my brownie the best. And that could be, that could be my thing. And then it's going to lead into the macro, my main recipe, and I'm an expert chef, right? And again, we could use any analogy. Let's go mechanic. We're building an engine. Well, doesn't an engine have all those little parts in there? Doesn't the transmission have to be connected just right? It has little bolts. It has little things. It has belts going across. So I could just talk about this belt today, and that leads into people that want their engine rebuilt eventually. And I already have them in my ecosystem paying me to hear a little training. And then when I'm like, hey, man, I can solve your whole engine for $5,000. Cool, Ray, let's do it. And then they buy my back end premium offer. So again, I could apply this to anything. I'm just obviously putting in a sense of digital products, digital presentations, and through a software platform because you guys all have access to that. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover. And then I know some of you guys kind of hopped in a little late, or as I was speaking, if you guys were on the beginning, I mentioned that I ran a more in-depth workshop about how to put this presentation together, about how I write the copy, about how I structure, about how I set up the funnel, all the little intricate parts with my making money sales presentation. So that is in this document that I've already shared with you guys. Go check it out later. There's a doc, and I'll just bring it up. When you click on that, there's a tutorial going through the workshop that I ran on how to go pull this off and the whole transcript and the worksheet that I go through. So I'm not going to spend the whole time today telling you how to build it out. I think there's only going to be a certain percentage of you on this call that are going to entertain, that are going to see value, and that are going to actually go implement that. If you feel like you're one of these people and you want to build out some paid sales presentations on the front end that lead to back end sales, I highly recommend clicking on this, checking out that video and that resource, and that will guide you right down that path. If you don't feel like this is for you, you're not going to put the time, bandwidth, you're not serious about it, please don't watch that, because it'll probably be a waste of your time. And I'm not here to waste any of our time, guys. I'm only here to, deliver some value. And then before I kind of stop screen share and kick it back for a question and answer segment, again, I know some of you guys hopped on late. And just to reemphasize or reiterate, what I went over is how to create paid presentations where you can collect some money up front. You can do this without having an existing audience, and how you can ultimately drive more qualified people into your back end premium offer at a lower cost, and sometimes even a break even or a profitable cost in terms of your overall acquisition. That's kind of what I covered. I don't know when you came in. You'd have to go back and watch the whole thing in its entirety for that all to come together, based on somebody that just hopped in the last 5 or 6 minutes or so. But um, just to reiterate, I am going to go drop this document. I shared it with everybody at the beginning of this call, but I know some of you guys weren't in there. So if anybody wants this document and this resource that I covered on today's call, it is right there in the Zoom chat. I just dropped it again at the timestamp 3:27 Eastern. And also, as most of you guys may know, each week when I run a DaaS sales workshop, if you guys joined late, you want to watch it back, whatever, my replays are always, when you go down to this different channel section and click on more, and then you click on the sales channel, my replays are always in here. So I haven't done one in 14 days. Boom, 14 days ago, there's my workshop. If we look back the time before that, you'll see so mine will be there by the end of the day in the sales channel. If anybody should, miss some, wants to watch it back, share with a team member, whatever, my replay is always uploaded there. And all the resources are also going to be down in the description when I drop the replay, but I did put them all in the chat box here for you guys. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. I got it done in 30 minutes instead of, I know I have a 60-minute workshop here, but I would love to hear some feedback, questions, thoughts on, number one, any questions on what I went through or any thoughts on implementing it. And then number two, I'm happy to take any generic sales questions. How do I price this? How should I offer this? How should I overcome that objection? If you guys got anything, type a 1 in the chat or just put the hand raise emoji up on your screen, and I'm happy to call on you individually. Okay. I just saw a 1. Oh, that came private through. So this is a great call. Do you have a Calendly to set up a call? And you put in a 1. So I know you messaged me private. This isn't in the chat where everybody can see it. This is Vistura. Are you able? Yeah.
Hi, how's it going?
All right, just unmute and chat for a minute.
Yeah, this is Ulysses. I appreciate it. This is actually something that I was looking for. Andrew and Mark recommended me to come on because I was looking for new strategies. Sounds like this is a strategy I want to implement, but I do want to ask you about pricing. So pricing is something that I think I've been struggling with, trying to figure out, what's the right pricing for B2C, B2B, the Pixel, and as well as the enrichment, because I do have some potential clients coming in. I've been looking at Zoom Info, Apollo, but that's more to B2B, and trying to figure out what's the right pricing that we should start off with. Like, for example, if we have a client that wants $1 million a month identity graphs, what should that look like? And then knowing that B2B is a little bit different than B2C because you're going to have a lot less, people that they'll be capturing on the data pool. What should that be pricing, right? So if you could kind of give me some guidance, and if this is not the appropriate time, then I'd love
It's
to
100% the appropriate time.
Yeah.
100% the appropriate time. I don't
Yeah.
mind doing it one-on-one, but I'd rather do it while I got you here right now. And there's other people
Yeah,
listening.
absolutely.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
doubt if somebody else has a similar question. So, you know, Number one, to answer your question, there's no right or wrong when it comes to pricing, right? There's certainly a spectrum of pricing and what works with my business model, my offer, what can my clients afford, et cetera. What I would say is, I think there's two or three core pricing models that I see most of the DaaS agency resellers use. Some are going old school and straight retainer pricing. Hey, this month, per month, per list, whatever, right? So it could be straight retainer. I see some of my clients doing sole performance-based marketing, meaning, I'm sorry, what was your first name again?
Ulysses.
Ulysses. So it could be
Yeah.
something like, hey, Ulysses, what if I could show you a revenue stream in your business that didn't even exist? I could come in there and create this revenue stream for you using some technology you're not using, and then I only split the profit 60-40 with you, right? That's some people's in. And do you know what they're doing when they do that, Ulysses? They're going to their website, probably somebody that they know is already getting some traffic. If you're making that statement that I can find you a new revenue stream here, let's say it's an e-commerce site that gets 50,000 hits per month and they're selling a $90 average order value. What you could say to that guy, you could very quickly say, hey, I can slap this identity resolution technology onto your website. I can resolve the identity of your bounce visitors. We can then very simply set up some retargeting email or ad campaigns, whatever you're running, and drive some people that already know about your website and your brand back into your funnel for some quick wins and some revenue. Whatever revenue we drive back in there, we split the profit 60-40, right? So like that's one way people are doing it. I have other clients doing a very small upfront retainer. Hey, you pay me $750 a month to be on retainer to guarantee you get one list, and then I only charge you $475 for each upsell after that, for each additional list. So they're starting at a front end base type retainer and then adding, each other list at a little bit of a discounted premium. Or, hey, a small front end retainer, Ulysses, you pay me $750 per month. I guarantee you to get you the data you need, and then I'm only going to charge you again, based on a percentage of the revenue that I bring into your company. There could be things like that. I have another client that does this primarily in media buying, where whatever he saves them on cost per lead, let's just say they were paying $10 per lead, we get them down to $4 a lead. That $6 difference, they split the profit on that 50-50. So they basically pay him $3 a lead to get their cost down another $3 if they're splitting the $6 difference. There's all those different performance and all those different ways, right? That I think you got to kind of figure out what goes with your current business model and how you sell. Now, these are some basic bottom line, bare minimum, easiest ways to sell it, where I really wouldn't go below this. I wouldn't slap a pixel onto a website and give the business owner all their resolved identities back for anything under $750 a month. And ideally, I really wouldn't like to be under $1,500 a month. But base, bare minimum, bottom of the barrel pricing, I wouldn't slap a pixel onto a website and sell it to a user for less than $750 a month ever. No excuse, no example, never. Normally I would do $750 and a little performance, because I really like to be getting about $1,500 a month per pixel. And there's usually a lot of money on the back end for the client, even at $1,500 a month. Think if, let's just say we're driving in 7,000 in revenue through this. He's paying your retainer $1,500 a month. That still means $5,500 is profit.
That $1,500 a month that you're talking about, does it depend on the resolution, the number of resolution? Like, for example, you resolve 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, or is it 1,500 and then you just you
Great
do a rev
question. I
share?
think you want to set that expectation beforehand with each client and how you want to do that. But let me show you how I run through that and how I would recommend that. And that's a great point there. So into the resources that I give all of my reseller clients, and I don't know if we've met on a one-on-one call yet, Ulysses, or I don't know when you came
No,
in the
we
program.
haven't, and that's why I'm really interested. And if we could do that, that'd be great.
Okay, cool. When did you enroll into our software?
18 months ago. Yeah. So
Oh,
like,
so we missed the process.
yeah. So it's been 18 months, and like I believe in this. I have, it's just been a roller coaster ride for us, and we've had right now we have two clients that are doing a total of four. We had 15, but they dropped. So we're just trying to figure out, how to maintain the clients over 6 months. We're all in. We're using your API. We have a site. We're trying to pivot because we're trying to figure out, if what we should do is go after national clients or local clients, because most of the clients that we have are national, and
Yeah,
we
so
have
let
an
me do
ad
this real
agency.
quick. Let me do
Yeah.
this real quick. Let me put my direct email here in the chat. Please just
Okay.
shoot me an email with your contact information
Okay.
after this call, and I'll get you booked in for one. I think we want to do some stuff one-on-one that I don't want to do necessarily here in front of
Okay.
everybody, just to be, respectful of everybody's time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I just shot that in the chat. Copy and paste that. Shoot me an email after the call, and I'll get you set up for something. Because I really think
Okay.
you missed some resources and some stuff that will help you with direction on what you just talked about by not doing that one-on-one with me. Now,
Yeah.
let me go back to your Pixel question. This is one of the resources that I provide and go over, and this is actually an example that one of my clients, you guys, used on one of their clients, the end user, right? So this is a perfect one to bring up. So in this case, I provide you guys this document, which is interchangeable. My client and reseller, his name is Sean. I'm not going to give away his full details because I don't think he gave me permission. But Sean, one of the AudienceLab users, was bringing this to an e-commerce brand. And when he met with the company, he goes, "How many hits do you get to your website per month?" E-commerce business says 93,000. That's why that number there. What is your current cost per acquisition? What does it cost to acquire a client? He figured out that number was 24.58. What does your website convert at? 3.6%. And then what is your average order value? So all he did is plug in those 4 metrics, and then everything else populated from there. So we could basically come to the assumption that through 93,000 traffic, if he's converting 3.6%, he's making about 3,300 sales per month. With his average order value being $64, he's doing about, again, 215 in total revenue. And with knowing his cost per acquisition at 24.58, we can assume he's spending about 82K in ad spend, right? Now we can see, because only 3.6% of people converting, we have about 89,000 bounce visitors or anonymous traffic. Let's say at that point, Ulysses, we only match at 30%. We identify 30% of these people. Well, now we matched about 26,000 people. Let's say our verification and data accuracy is only 80%. We want to be a little conservative. We don't want to say the full 26,000. That means each month, Ulysses, I can give you back verified 21,500 people that are visiting your website. Let's say we can get them to just re-opt into your content, not to purchase, but just to re-opt into your content at about 15%. That means we've recovered 3,200 leads out of those 21,000 people. And then let's say your conversion percentage on your cold traffic to your website was 3.6%. So I think it's safe to say we're in the same ballpark with warm traffic that we've retargeted. 4% is probably a safe bet still, right? So that would drive you 116 extra clients per month. You told me your average order value is $64, right, Ulysses? So that means we just recovered $7,400 per month in revenue off using nothing but this identity resolution technology and nothing else. So then we can go in down here and play around with our pricing below that line. But this is what we want to show them. So now I can say, from the recovered revenue line down, let's say I'm going to charge you $497 per month for my Pixel activation fee. Or sorry, for licensing my fee. And then I'm going to charge you, $497 per month for the retargeting, meaning I'm going to take this data and loop it into your ad campaigns or your email campaigns for you. And then all I want is a 3% performance on the back end. So that means out of this $7,400 that I can make you each month, Ulysses, you pay me $1,200, you keep $6,200. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, I could play around with those numbers and that pricing all day, right? I just did that off the top of my head in a sequential flow. But by just knowing, it's really about these first 4 metrics. We need to know these from the client, and acquisition is the one that I can guesstimate the most. I really want to know their average order value, their website conversion, and their website traffic. I can come with a rough guess, and even if they don't know their acquisition cost, I can go Google what is the consumer acquisition cost in XYZ industry, and I can get a very close rough estimate, right? So that's the only one I'm never a stickler on. I can go do some research and find that myself. But these other 3 numbers, if I know those, I can build this out almost every time so it shows a positive ROI. I make $1,200 a month, and all I do is slap this pixel on once and set up a webhook that syncs the data and retargets it at the end of the month. Boom, that's all I've done. I'm making $1,200 a month on autopilot.
I know there's probably other people that are asking questions, but this is awesome. So I appreciate that. I wanted to ask, would you recommend a hybrid model? And what I mean by that is the B2C and B2B data, the high intent data. Would you do performance based on performance and also a flat fee of like, hey, this is what you pay, this is what you get on data if they have their own internal marketing team where they can handle that and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
well then I'm not going to be able to do that for them. So would you do something along those lines?
I think what you're asking there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're asking there is the difference between a more low fulfillment DaaS agency and a more full stack model DaaS agency.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's more like, hey, there's accounts where I can just sell the data and you have the marketing team and the media buyer, you know what to do with it, you can run with it. Or,
Right.
hey, I provide the data, but you don't have the marketing department, the media buyer, you need
Right.
me to run all that shit for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there would be
Yeah.
totally different pricing. And I think the
Yeah.
big differentiator, a lot of my clients, when they come in, they kind of decipher between one of those two. Hey, Ray, I want to be a low fulfillment, or hey, Ray, with my skill set and everything we have built out, I want to be a more full stack agency. Let me tell you what
Yeah.
I see as the difference in the pros and cons between the two. Now,
Uh,
I think if you're that more low fulfillment model agency as opposed to the full stack, there's two big differences. Number one, you're open to less market share as a low stack fulfillment agency, and I'll explain why. And number two, you're probably going to charge a little less because you're offering less services and expertise than a full stack agency, right? You're just
mhm.
providing the list and then you're hands off. But what I mean by less market share is to be that low fulfillment kind of hands off DaaS model agency, you have to work with more established brands that already have the prerequisites. They've been in business X amount of years. They do X amount in annual revenue. They have X amount of team members. So I can only be targeting that mid to high tier business model that has those prerequisites. Whereas a more full stack agency, I can go target a mom and pop. I can provide them with the list, but not only that, I can run the marketing, because if I'm to try to be that low fulfillment model agency and just provide a list to little mom and pop Joe's Roofing, he's not going to know what the F to do with that to go monetize it. So he's never going to come back and buy another one. So again, you can charge a little more, yes, and you're open to more market share. But again, there's more fulfillment, and so there's kind of pros and cons there both. What I would think, if I'm a DaaS reseller going into that model, who's my existing ideal client right now and who am I speaking with? Is that more established companies that have these things or not? And then that kind of determines what I need to come up with on my fulfillment. But
Yeah,
to answer
that's
your
exactly
point,
right.
basic
Yeah.
pricing between the two, if I was a low fulfillment, hands off model agency, and I'm just providing a list, I would just have X amount per list and I would sell them, that, and then be hands off. There's no extra charge because I'm not doing anything else. I'm hands off. You guys go run with it, right? Now, if they
Yeah.
need me to run the marketing campaigns and shit, my thing would be, hey, the list is X amount, same price, but I charge $1,500 more to run all your ads, your marketing campaigns, and your emails for you.
Yeah, so we're a full stack ad agency. We've been doing it for 15 years, so we have a lot of national clients, and that's where they have really their marketing team. But that's where I'm having a challenge on the pricing, which we could talk about later, and I'll send you an email after this.
So
But
very
uh,
simply, if you're already a
yeah,
full stack agency, that means you already
yeah,
have pricing, you already have some services. So what I would do
yeah,
right off the bat, Ulysses, is just
yeah,
do two tiers. So hey, you have my, I'm
yeah.
sorry, what was the
You
name of your
listen,
business? Or, no, the
Vistura,
business.
yeah,
Okay.
Vistura, yeah,
And you are a paid ad agency, basically, full
yeah,
stack marketing
yeah,
advertising agency.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
So hey, we have our Facebook
yeah,
or my ad package. I don't know how you categorize
yeah.
it or how you say it, but let's just say you charge $2,500 a month to run ad services for a client. Well, what you can do very
Mhm.
simply is, hey, you can get my basic ads plan at 2,500, or you can get my premium one backed by in-market first-party data at 3,500 a month. This one will really drive in lower cost per lead and acquisition and leverage first-party intent data. The other one is standard meta targeting. Which one's better for you? So right off the bat, you
Mhm.
could just segment my normal services, my premium services. This one's backed by market intent driven first party data. And if you're
Okay.
working with brands and some national companies, they're really going to be focused on that cost per lead and acquisition. They're probably going to want the premium tier where that's a focus.
Yeah, mostly so, and we'll talk more. We're multicultural, so we handle their Hispanic national campaign. What I'm trying to do with the data is get, because they have the English marketing internal marketing team, so they can handle it, and that's where the hybrid comes in, right? So, but no, I appreciate this info. I'll email you. Love to get the one-on-one because I definitely want to pick your brain.
Yeah,
Appreciate
yeah.
you.
Shoot me an email. I'll get you on my calendar. We'll set that up later in the week,
All
early
right,
next week, whatever works for us.
all right. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, guys. I see Christopher, Georgetta. I think Matthew, you might still be on. I know you said you had to bounce. Did anyone else have any other questions, thoughts, or feedback before we hop off this week's lesson or session, I should say? Just give you a good minute or two to speak or forever hold your peace. But I don't see any more comments or feedback. So great, guys. Yeah, Ulysses, I'll be waiting for your email. I'll get back to you shortly. And guys, if you hopped on late or you want to check out the replay or this in its entirety, just go to our school community, click on the sales channel, and this replay will be uploaded before the end of the day. All right. Appreciate
Thank
everybody. We'll
you.
catch you next time.